The Grand Canyon is one of the most photographed natural wonders on Earth, drawing nearly 5 million visitors every year to stand at its rim and stare into this geological masterpiece. But hiding behind its beauty is a far deadlier reality.
Officials are investigating after a 33-year-old man fell to his death this week while touring the Grand Canyon.
New at noon, a man is dead after falling over the edge into the Grand Canyon.
Tonight, there's growing alarm in Grand Canyon National Park following a series of tragic deaths amid extreme weather. Rescuers finding a body just last week of a 60-year-old man who had been backpacking alone, marking the 14th death this year.
Since the 1800s, roughly 900 people have lost their lives at this famous attraction, a death toll that stands at 2.5 times that of Mount Everest. Yet the thing killing people here probably isn't the one you'd expect. Falling hundreds of feet from the canyon rim is often the most cited fear, but this accounts for just 2 deaths per year. The real danger, the one that hides in plain sight, claims over 4 times as many lives. So what's actually killing people at the Grand Canyon? And how can you be more prepared to protect yourself from the dangers that lurk here? Let's find out. The Grand Canyon National Park sits in northwestern Arizona, spanning nearly 1,900 square miles. The canyon stretches 277 miles long, averages 10 miles wide, and plunges roughly 1 mile deep. In 2024, the park drew 4.9 million visitors, making it the 3rd most visited national park in the United States, but hasn't always been this popular. At the start of the 20th century, the canyon was largely unexplored by non-indigenous visitors. That began to change when the Santa Fe Railroad reached the South Rim, cutting the travel time from a 2-day stagecoach journey to a 3-hour train ride. Visitation began to climb. And in 1919, during the area's first year as a national park, nearly 38,000 people visited. Infrastructure evolved to accommodate the growing crowds. Over the coming decades, the Civilian Conservation Corps built the corridor trail system using 40,000 pounds of explosives. They constructed suspension bridges across the Colorado River and installed water stations along major trails. By 1950, the park's visitors had risen to over 600,000 before exploding in popularity towards the end of the century. In 2018, attendance records peaked at 6.4 million people. But as visitor numbers climbed, so did the toll. The National Park Service conducts roughly 310 search and rescue operations annually at Grand Canyon, the highest rate of any unit in the entire park system. And since it opened in 1919, more than 900 people have died here, averaging between 12 and 17 deaths every year. And the nature of those deaths has shifted dramatically over time. The 1950s through 1980s were dominated by aviation disasters. But now 3 key dangers make up the vast majority of unintentional fatalities within the Grand Canyon. Based on national park data between 2007 and 2023, here's the top 3 dangers ranked from least to most deadly. It may be a semi-arid desert, but the Grand Canyon is home to one of the most treacherous stretches of water in the United States. The Colorado River flows through 277 miles of canyon, claiming an average of 1.3 lives per year and accounting for roughly 8% of deaths here. The river kills through a deadly combination that most people gravely underestimate. First, the rapids themselves. The canyon contains some of the most powerful whitewater in the country, with sections reaching Class 5 on the difficulty scale. Between 2010 and 2020, 22 people died on river trips. And while life jackets should always be worn on the water, they're no guarantee of safety, with over 50% of victims wearing a life jacket. Even in lower grade currents, fatalities occur. An 80-year-old man died in August 2024 when his boat flipped in the Class 3 Fossil Rapids during a commercially guided trip. While rafting and kayaking account for many fatalities, it's well documented that one of the most common drowning scenarios involves people wading into the river from the shore without life jackets and being caught off guard by strong currents. The second lethal factor is temperature. Water released from the bottom of Glen Canyon Dam maintains a temperature of 42 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. That's cold enough to trigger cold shock response, a series of involuntary responses that cause sudden gasping, hyperventilation, and rapid loss of muscular coordination. It's a silent killer that can impact everyone, regardless of your swimming competency. Then, of course, there are the falls. The National Park Service maintains more than 2,000 miles of unfenced rim, and it's both physically incapable and philosophically opposed to fencing it all. Since the park opened, 198 people have died from falls. That works out to roughly 2.4 deaths per year in the modern era, accounting for about 14% of all fatalities. And unsurprisingly, roughly 70% of fatal rim falls are men. As terrifying as the prospect of falling into the canyon is, the odds of dying from a rim fall work out to approximately 1 in 1.8 million visitors, meaning you are nearly twice as likely to be struck by lightning as to take a fatal fall at the Grand Canyon. But for those who don't give the danger the respect it deserves, those odds shift dramatically. The 2019 season was a prime example. Spring that year saw a cluster of fall deaths that triggered national media attention. On March 28, a tourist from Hong Kong fell approximately 1,000 feet at Eagle Point near the skywalk while taking photographs. And again, just months later, a 59-year-old woman from Arizona fell 100 feet after accidentally stepping off the edge of the canyon while taking photos off the designated path. But provided you stay alert and give the canyon the respect it deserves, falling remains a statistically unlikely cause of death and far from the danger that claims the most lives. The real danger of the Grand Canyon is medical emergencies caused by the extreme environment. Although the National Park Service database records environmental and medical emergency fatalities as separate instances, and the reality is that extreme heat, combined with physical exertion, is likely the underlying driver for 50% to 60% of all deaths recorded in the park. From 2007 to 2023, the Grand Canyon recorded 53 medical deaths, more than any other unit in the entire National Park Service, due to the extreme environment visitors are subjected to. A key part of this is that many people fail to understand a concept known as the inverted mountain effect. While descending into the canyon, the ease and excitement of the trail can be seductive. Unlike a regular mountain that weeds out the unfit early by forcing them to climb uphill first, the canyon lures people deeper with easy descents. But when it's time to begin the ascent, it punishes them with 5,000 feet of uphill climbing in extreme heat when they're exhausted and dehydrated. Temperature changes then compound this problem. While the rim can sit at a comfortable 85 degrees, at the same time, the canyon floor can reach 120 degrees in shade due to the dark, metamorphic rocks absorbing and radiating heat. That's a 30-degree temperature differential, almost the equivalent to walking from Yellowstone into the Mojave Desert, completely unaware. And it's this heat, paired with the inverted mountain effect, that catches older and less fit visitors off guard, triggering a cascading medical emergency. It begins with the heat and physical exertion, creating excessive sweating and dehydration, which reduces blood volume. The heart compensates by pumping harder to cool the body, which causes progressive cardiac strain, leading to arrhythmia and eventually cardiac arrest. And this is a pattern seen time and time again at the Grand Canyon. On the 7th of July, 2024, a 50-year-old man from San Angelo, Texas, stayed overnight at Havasupai Gardens campground and hiked back to the rim via Bright Angel Trail. But he collapsed 100 feet below the trailhead, literally steps from safety and within sight of the rim. Then, in July of 2025, a 67-year-old man realized too late that the temperatures were reaching dangerous levels, deciding to retreat, but dying on the climb back up below Cedar Ridge. The heat is so extreme during the summer months that it grounds the rescue helicopters too. The Park Service explicitly warns, efforts to assist hikers may be delayed due to limited helicopter flying capability during periods of extreme heat. When you need help most, help literally cannot reach you. As the canyon continues to record record-breaking temperatures, heat-related deaths are becoming increasingly common. The 2024 season saw 16 deaths, one of the deadliest years in recent history. August alone saw a cluster of fatalities that prompted national media coverage, with NPR reporting the park was experiencing one of its deadliest stretches in years. And perhaps even more worryingly, a 2023 study predicts that heat-related illness at Grand Canyon could increase 29 to 137% above 2004 to 2009 levels by the end of the century. Countless signs across the park warn of the unseen dangers, yet they seem unable to prevent what most visitors remain unaware of until it's too late. Now, it's important to understand that while the Grand Canyon leads all national parks in total deaths, it's also due in part to the sheer popularity of the site. The per-visitor death rate works out to roughly 2.4 to 3 deaths per million visitors. That's approximately 2 to 3 times the National Park Service system-wide average. But when adjusted for visitation volume, Grand Canyon drops to number 19 on the most deadly parks list at 23.97 deaths per 10 million visits, far below North Cascades at 601.7 or Denali at 89.8. The dangers here are real, but they're manageable if you give them the respect they deserve. The single most important thing you can do is avoid hiking during the hottest parts of the day in the summer months. The Park Service explicitly discourages hiking into the canyon between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. from May through September. And if you do hike, wear a wide-brimmed hat and light-colored, breathable clothing, and ensure to apply sunscreen repeatedly. And always bring more water than you think you need. The standard recommendation is 1 liter per hour of hiking in summer heat, but many experienced hikers bring even more. Dehydration impairs your judgment before you realize you're in trouble. And remember what the National Park Service says: down is optional, up is mandatory. Remember this, and it might just save your life.